Mike Spataro here for 1230 KHAS, and I'm joined by Paul Theobald, who is the Democratic candidate for the 3rd Congressional District. Thank you for joining me today.
Well, thank you, Mike.
So your background, you have a farmer's background. What would your proposals be for an agricultural policy, especially in light of some of the trade policies President Trump supports?
Well, great question. First of all, I want to clarify, though, this is I'm a part-time farmer, a full-time educator. Always been a rural person and involved in rural community, rural education issues. But yeah, ag policy is huge, obviously, for the state of Nebraska. We are much less diversified than most states as ag goes, Nebraska goes. And the horizon is bleak, to be honest with you. I think everybody knows that Mexico is our largest trading partner, our largest agricultural market, and our relationship with Mexico right now is frayed, to say the least. They are actively pursuing agreements with Argentina and Brazil to replace American grain. This will be devastating for the state of Nebraska. And it's not just grain farmers, it's beef as well. The antipathy generated by this administration in Japan led them to almost double their tariff on American beef. This is not good for Nebraska. So we clearly need we need some repair with these relationships desperately. But I'll say, too, related to ag policy, there are a lot of other circumstances at work here that don't paint a very rosy picture. And one is, of course, the mega mergers, these large agricultural industries that are buying up their competition so they can control the market. That really needs to stop. And then the last thing I might say on the topic is that we need a farm bill that is going to stabilize the current population of farmers and ranchers, serve as a source for beginning farmer programs so that we can actually grow the number of farmers and ranchers. The farm bills of the past have been great for record profits for ag industries, but it's left farmers and ranchers on a razor-thin profit margin. That's got to change. We really have to flip that script so that we have a kind of prosperous countryside, which, of course, redounds to the benefit of our rural communities and schools and hospitals, et cetera.
All right. And then what about environmental issues? If you were in Congress, what would you propose or support?
Well, I'm obviously a big proponent of environmental protection. Probably the most glaring example in the state of Nebraska is what's currently happening with regard to the Keystone Project, trampling on the rights of farmers and ranchers and endangering our most valuable natural resource. Also, that out-of-state corporate investors get a high return on their investment in TransCanada. It's really a travesty. And we've got to make sure that our aquifer is protected. And quite frankly, Nebraskans need to stand up and say, multinational corporations do not control us. We control them. And I would be in favor of that.
All right, and then moving on, what do you think should be done with healthcare? That's a contentious issue right now.
It is, and it even splits Democrats to some degree. But I think it's important to point out that the 3rd District is disproportionately self-employed. They're disproportionately employed by very small companies. Obviously, the 3rd District, as much as any other congressional district, needs affordable health care. And my opponent has voted literally dozens of times to do away with affordable health care for his neighbors and constituents. It makes no sense. But I am not in favor of actually repairing the Affordable Health Care Act. Some Democrats are. I'm not. And the reason is that the Affordable Health Care Act does nothing about the fact that we have a for-profit medical care system, we have a for-profit health insurance industry, we have a for-profit pharmaceutical industry. That the combination of those three sectors, all charging what the market will bear, makes our system egregiously expensive. Way more expensive than any other nation on earth. It's like a lead weight on individuals and small businesses in this country, and we need to turn the page on that. The answer is Medicare for all. And I know that, again, out-of-state corporate shareholders make a lot of money off this egregiously expensive system. They're not interested in seeing it go. They're willing to spend millions to smear and make people afraid of Medicare for all. But that is simply the answer. We have to join the rest of the world. There are so many benefits besides just reducing the cost of health care. It will put money back into the pockets of Americans. It frees up the entrepreneurial spirit in this country, and that's really important for the 3rd District and these small communities that need businesses. People who are working at their jobs just to keep the benefits. They have a passion in something else. With Medicare for All, they can actually go and follow that passion, create a new business. Right now, they can't do that. They can't take the chance that somebody in their family might come down with a serious illness. So there's just so many benefits to a Medicare for All program that's exactly the direction we need to move.
So another contentious issue right now, especially in D.C., is the federal tax code. What do you think of the new tax code that just got passed? What's good? What's bad about it?
Well, quite honestly, Mike, there's very little good about it. It condemns us to borrowing $1.4 trillion over the next 10 years, and basically giving that to the wealthiest people on the planet with no strings attached. But particularly as it concerns the 3rd District, and this is data provided by Trump's own Department of Agriculture. They did an analysis to see how this would shake out for the farmers and ranchers in the country. And what they found was that the lowest earning 20% of farmers and ranchers will actually see their tax burden go up as a result of this law. Now, the lowest earning 20% of farmers and ranchers in this state are the folks who are on the bubble. They're the folks who cannot stand one more year of prices below the cost of production. So this will be absolutely devastating. So we have all of these, the dark clouds on from the trade perspective on the horizon. Plus we have this tax bill, which is going to be very onerous for our ag producers. It's just not looking good. And that, quite frankly, that's why we need a serious change.
All right. And then statistically speaking, Nebraska's 3rd District, and historically speaking, actually, is one of the most conservative in the nation. What do you want to tell voters to convince them to vote for a Democrat?
Well, what I want to, and I think this is something folks can relate to. I think everybody realizes that corporate America is calling the shots. I think to some extent, folks thought with an independent person like Donald Trump, we could see the tide turn, or the corner turned on that on the degree to which corporate America controls our politicians. We're not seeing that. We're not seeing it at all. In fact, it's, if anything, just simply gotten worse. But here's the thing, Mike. Nebraska, more than any other state in the union, has a reputation for serving as a check on corporate power. And that's what my campaign is all about. It's a call to live our legacy, honor the memory of our grandparents and great-grandparents who pooled their resources to create cooperatives to compete against national giants. They did this very effectively, and as I say, no state has a better reputation for doing just that. And that's why I think that the 3rd District will get behind my candidacy. There's 12 for the past 12 years, my opponent's been in office. I've never met anyone who can point to anything in their community to suggest that, I can attribute that to my congressperson. So that's why I think that there's going to be an openness to my candidacy.
And then last question for you. Another contentious issue in D.C. is DACA and immigration. What's your stance on that?
Well, I stand with the vast majority of the people, the American people. We need to protect these kids who are here through no fault of their own, and quite frankly are making a very valuable contribution to America's economy at this point. It would be kicking ourselves, actually, if we were to deport these people. So, no, and I think the rest of the country, well, we know the rest of the country agrees with that. So, but as far as serious border security, yes, it doesn't come in the form of walls, but there are many other things that we can do to serve as surveillance over the immigration issue.
All right, sounds good. That's Paul Theobald. He is the Democratic candidate for the 3rd Congressional District of Nebraska. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Mike.